So what causes failure to launch anyway? People are talking about it. In fact, we've been talking about it now for multiple years. In this video, I'm going to be talking about failure to launch, what causes it, and just so you know, if you know what causes it, you can also know how to fix it. Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, child development, and family relationships all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about what happens when people don't launch. So what is it that causes them not to launch from your home? And then we're going to be talking about what parents can do to also make sure that their children successfully launch from home as well. The whole time we're raising our children, we are thinking of what type of adult we want them to become. In fact, at no time do most adults think to themselves, I hope my child will just never grow up. I mean, sure, maybe the moments when they're cuddling on our lap and they're teeny and it feels so nice, we think, I don't want this to end, but really we do want it to. We do want them to launch into adulthood. When a person launches into adulthood, so this is my little person launch rocket here. When a person launches into adulthood, they are finding purpose. They are finding their meaning in life. They know who they are and where they are going. This is huge. Part of launching is understanding your true eternal identity. So I'm not talking about just things you like or things you do or what you prefer at a particular time, because being a gamer is not an identity. That's a pastime. It's totally different. So what it means, in my case, to truly be a woman and doing something, what it means to be a person in God's eyes, because I'm actually a religious person, but maybe you're not. So you might say, what does it mean to be a good citizen in the community? How do I make the world a better place? These are all kinds of things that you might evaluate in order to become really ready to launch. So when a person launches, they know who they are and they know where they're headed. So one key thing that helps a person understand who they are and where they're headed is their bond or attachment with their parents. It is the attachment with parents and the relationships with the people in previous generations, like their parents and grandparents, that give them that picture of where they need to be headed in the future. And that's why they're ready to take off, even though it's scary. It's always going to be scary. And change is always going to feel a little uncomfortable and hard, but we don't need to be afraid of uncomfortable. People have been growing up, well, forever, right? So what is it that gets in the way? So here's my failure to launch side. On the failure to launch side, we see this guy down here and he's just sleeping it out, right? He's just in his bed, and you have to forgive my bad artistry. But what we're going to do is we're going to stack up what's keeping him here in this bed. And one key thing that is keeping him in bed is actually he doesn't have a purpose, right? He doesn't understand purpose. Okay? So how does a person understand purpose? Well, they have to know somebody who has purpose as well. So hopefully that's you. Hopefully that's their parent or grandparent. The person who's raising them has to understand purpose. This person knows purpose. They know they've got to have a purpose in life. They've got to figure that out and launch themselves toward that, even if they're not 100% comfortable yet. This person doesn't understand purpose. They're just living in each moment of every day. They're just focusing on the detail in front of them, like their hungry stomach or something like that. But there are more things that they should be thinking about, but they won't know to think about them if they are not part of conversation with other people about life purpose. If they don't meet inspiring people and live with people who seem to do something besides just watch TV and eat food, because that is not going to show them where they are headed. I've got a lot of things to list out here for what is really keeping a person from launching. But before we get to that, Click on the subscribe button now. This channel is dedicated to giving you and your family the things that you need to have a united family, to have happiness in your relationships, and to learn to solve your problems more calmly. You're not going to want to miss the videos that come out on here all the time. So click on the subscribe button now. Probably the most obvious thing that people see that keeps somebody from launching is actually selfishness. We can write selfishness multiple different ways. Selfishness can also be written as entitlement, laziness. It's really easy to become lazy. In our current society, so many things have been automated and digitized, and it's like shop from home. You don't even need to leave your couch, right? You just order something, you ask Google something, you know, it's just so easy to be lazy and to be entitled, to just expect things to come to you at any given time. In fact, I think one of the ways that our society is really being oppressed is by having things be too easy and promoting too much entitlement and laziness. So when things happen too easily, meaning somebody else is doing stuff for us, we don't have to do enough of our own work or take our own responsibility, then that leads to selfishness. So selfishness is big. It has a lot of things. Don't take responsibility, expect others to do things for me all the time, don't want to lift a finger, want to just, take the path of least resistance. These are all going to be things that lead to selfishness. Another thing that leads to selfishness is poor communication skills. When a person does not know the skills that they need for communication, they leave a lot of things assumed in their communications with people. This is bad for their relationships and their bonds, and it also makes it so that they are less effective in everything that they do. If you do not have good communication skills, you are not usually ready to launch out into the world. Now, of course, you could start launching with mediocre communication skills and improve them along the way. In fact, I would hope that everybody does. But if you do not know how to say, just be calm and be patient with another person, or disagree in an appropriate way with somebody, you are going to struggle with everything because you're going to take everything personally. People who have poor communication skills are often overly emotional. In fact, they try to solve their problems with emotions, which leads to poor problem-solving ability. When a person doesn't communicate a lot, so they're just isolated all on their own, which can happen if you're in front of a device or a game console every single day. If a person is in that zone, then when they need something, they're emotional. They don't know how to solve their problem, which means that somebody else is going to be solving their problems for them a lot. Mom and dad jump in and just rescue instead of giving the person the opportunity to solve their own problems. In order to solve your own problems, you have to be able to stop and think. So you need to know how to think. So we're going to say, don't like thinking, okay? This can happen. They don't like being the person who has to come up with the solution. And when you don't like thinking, that's going to cripple you in another way. You probably won't step out of your comfort zone a lot either. So many people who have failure to launch don't step out of a comfort zone. So we're going to say, don't step out. Many people are aware of comfort zones nowadays. In fact, we're giving a lot of messaging to people about comfort zones, saying that they should be comfortable all the time. It is a total myth to teach a person that they should be able to be comfortable all the time. No person is comfortable all the time. You cannot achieve anything in life, whether it's success in the workplace, in education, even just having a child or having a baby, and maintain comfort the entire time. Everything we do that are our greatest moments in life are moments that come from stepping out of our comfort zones. So we have to teach our children bit by bit, starting when they're young, that it is okay to step out of their comfort zone. Even if our child is shy or introverted, we still need to keep pushing them to step out of the comfort zone. Even if they cry, even if they worry about it a little bit. Sometimes a person will stress a little as they're stepping out of the comfort zone, but then they realize everything was okay. Then they want to try it again just to make sure everything was okay. And soon they have a whole new level of abilities. That's what it means to step out of a comfort zone. You have to overcome fear again and again. I remember when I was a little child and my mother took me to swimming lessons. I was sad. I was scared. I screamed and cried day after day at the lessons, and my teacher would take me back to my mother because she couldn't handle me anymore. My mother would put me in the pool with her, and she would say, we are going to be in the pool this whole time so that you can learn, that you can be in this water. And she kept me in there with her, and I felt like it was okay because I was with her. By the end of the swimming lessons, finally, the last lesson or two, I decided to go to my teacher and learn a couple of things like how to blow bubbles in the water. But Mom was the one who told me I could do it, and she made me stick to it even though I was panicking and crying. She did not decide that that meant she was a failure as a mother. She decided that that was when the mother was needed the most. So we need to make sure that we help our children step out of their comfort zones. Otherwise, they won't want to step out of the biggest comfort zone of all, and that is our home. They need to do that in order to launch. Another thing that keeps people from launching is not planning. So poor planning. Some people just don't want to plan because they don't want the responsibility. It is up to the parent to make sure that they have conversations with the child about making a plan. And don't just say, what do you want to do? Because they could then not ever answer. So what you need to do is you need to have special meetings. I call these parent counseling sessions. In fact, I talk about this in my Teaching Self-Government Parenting course, how to have a really good open communication parent counseling session with your child. You need to have the type of conversation that says, so when we're moving on from the home, where are we going to be moving to next? We just assume we're moving, and then we plan for where that next place is. Is it college, or is it an apartment on your own? Where is it that you are going to be going next? Are you going to be doing some sort of a service thing where you serve abroad, maybe do missions for your church, which is something that a lot of people do? What is it that you are going to do with your life next? And it's not a, are you going to? It's when we move from here, then where? Also, what type of relationships do you want in your future life so that you can have happiness? Don't just say, are you going to get married? Do you think you might? Those are too open-ended. What you need to do is assume the person will have relationships and want them, because that is a basic need of life. In fact, one thing that keeps a person in this condition a lot is not having good relationships at home, not bonding at home, and having too much alone time. Too much alone time. I mean, I should probably write that one really big over the whole thing. When a person has too much alone time, that actually damages their relationships because it makes them a little island and they get out of the habit of communicating with others. This will give them the impression that in the future they don't want or need relationships. They need to be having constant talking happen all the time, and they need to have time with other people. So we need to make sure that we're regularly facilitating that. Basically, a person who is going to really launch needs to have real life activities. They need to be doing adult things long before they are adult. They need to be doing their laundry, doing chores, planting a garden, painting a house, working in an adult work atmosphere. They need regular experiences. That's going to be huge. This person over here who's just chilling in bed and not going to launch, this person is not having regular adult experiences. Now, there is something, might be the elephant in the room. It definitely needs to be talked about. When we're talking about people who have a failure to launch, we're talking about somebody who either is controlling and lazy or has stress and anxiety. And I would think more people fall into the category of stress and anxiety. They're just worried about taking this big leap off the ground and doing something with their lives, even though it's going to happen gradually, incrementally, bit by bit. They don't know that. It just seems different, and they're worried about that. Many of our young people who have failure to launch have perfectionism, and because of their perfectionism, they do not feel that they are ready enough to do this. They don't know when they will feel that way because they want to feel perfect. Social media and our culture in general has really promoted that people need to be perfect to be valuable. And since they aren't the YouTube star yet, they're not sure they can do anything valuable yet. What does launch mean? Launch means live with purpose. You could get married and raise a wonderful child, and that's it. And that is a massive, purposeful life. So people don't need to be a star to have purpose. People need to live a good, normal life to have purpose, and we need to teach our children that. It's super important that they recognize being normal is enough. Being normal is actually the goal. Let's not think that we have to be the next YouTube star in order to really do something valuable in the world. Perfectionism, stress, and anxiety. I could talk so much about stress and anxiety, but I do have other videos that address stress and anxiety and things related to those things. So I'm not going to go into those now, but I am going to say that I have more for you on this failure to launch problem, and I'd like to share that with you now. I have another video on failure to launch, and it's called Failure to Launch: 5 Successful Tips for Preparing Children for Adulthood. And so click on the link to that video now, and you will learn 5, maybe even 6, I think I've got a bonus for you in there, tips that you can do to make sure you prepare your child to successfully launch. And at the end of that video, I've got a special gift for you as well that will really help strengthen your relationships. So go to that video now. Failure to Launch: 5 Successful Tips for Preparing Children for Adulthood, and you will find even more that I think you can start applying right now in your home.